Playing in Rise of Kingdoms can be very, very tedious, especially when you're trying to allocate your gold heads into commanders. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what commanders you can put minimal investment in. Okay, we call them half-baked commanders. Minimal investment in and still get great value out of it. It's about time I did it, and I want to go through it all with you as we talk about our half-baked commanders. Yeah, everybody, I'm your boy War Daddy Chatsky. I do videos all the time. And if you enjoy these videos, please throw a thumbs up on them. Like the videos. It really helps out the channel. It helps out everything that we're doing. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. We are hammering subscribers. I've been doing this for 10 months and we have pushed way over 50,000 subscribers. Hit that bell to get the alerts whenever I do content like this. And we today are talking about half-baked commanders. I get to ask this all the time. Can I use BQ 5511? When is Chen available to be used? What other commanders can I use and get value out of? And so we're going to go through this just a little bit, and I've even got a little tier list for it because we need to identify the commanders you have to have that are maxed and the commanders you have to have or that you can have at 5511 or 5515, different things like that. So let me pull this up here. This is the tier list. And the first one we will talk about here is William. Okay, William the Conqueror. As we get into William has always been a great investment for years in the game. And now that everybody uses him in the end game, either with Huo or even behind Nevsky, or very popular behind Arthur and the combo things that Arthur does, William does some really, really cool stuff, and he can do it with max value. His expertise is really good. I've got the museum buff on it, so he's got a 1600 damage factor when it hits multiple targets. From there, the buffs that he lays down are really good. His kit has always been amazing. Okay, he's got a march speed reduction he does, but he increases or he mitigates any kind of increased skill damage. Like if Nevsky's hitting, part of the reason why Nevsky is so strong is that when he's hitting, he gives all these skill damage bonuses, right? But if Nevsky is ever hit with the AoE of William, those go away for 3 seconds. Like you don't get the benefit of those. It's the same thing with YSG behind Chen. YSG gives Chen a whole bunch of skill damage bonus. This is why William is so good even today, having great longevity in the game. You go into his second skill, this is really, really good. You get a 20% attack bonus, you get a 10% damage bonus. You gotta have these two skills maxed. From there, you can pull off a little bit of 5511. People ran Phillip 5511 for a long time. Okay, and so from this standpoint, this is the expertise when it comes to William. But if you don't have an expertise, it is a smaller damage factor and it's not quite as potent. If you're going to run him with Arthur, you have to have him 5551. You have to have the third skill maxed. Okay, and so from there, the fourth skill can kind of be skipped here. Okay, when you hit people more than one target, or when you hit just one target with your bloodline, with your AoE, your troops will get 20% defense for 3 seconds. If you hit 2 or more targets, then he does that buff for all the troops around you, for 5 nearby allied or friendly troops. Now, if you don't have this max, you get a 10% buff, okay? This is a cool buff. It's really, really good, and you get the extra rage, but you don't quite get the full defense if you don't have his fourth skill expertise. So with that, you still get the rage. That's why 5511 and William is really, really good when it comes to the value. So with that, I'm gonna put William up here at A tier. Okay, he's a great half-baked commander. Great. All right, we're gonna talk about Joan next. All right, we'll stick with the Cavs and we'll kind of go through that, how we do it. Joan is really, really good half-baked, and let me explain to you. The primary skill is great. Okay, the active skill is really, really good. 2000 damage factor. It's pretty on par with 3 AoE damage factor. You do get a good rage gain when it comes to that for you and 2 other marches that are around you. You also get a damage bonus. First skill's a must-have. Second skill is a must-have, in my opinion. Okay, this cavalry unit gains 20% attack and 10% march speed. When you're outside of territory, you get another 10% march speed. You need the march speed. And you deal 5% more normal damage, okay? From there, you can literally skip this skill. The cavalry units deal 5% more damage. That's fine. If you have it at level 1, it's just 1% damage. And then whenever you use an active skill, you gain 30% bonus to normal damage for 1 second. Okay, well, she's an active skill commander. You're going to put her behind Huo. You're going to put her behind Nevsky. You're going to run her with Phillip. You're not going to run her with anything that has normal damage bonuses, okay? So you can skip this, and then this is where the rubber meets the road when it comes to Joan. Getting the 4th skill to tier 5, you get 100% probability to fire off her active skill twice. And so from that standpoint, you have to get this skill max. So 5515 Joan is very, very potent and very, very good, and it's still used in the end game here. So just make sure everybody understands that she is quality at 5515, okay? Now we're going to talk about Nevsky. Nevsky, for you early game players that are maybe doing dailies on Nevsky, or you've got some heads on Nevsky, or you're trying to figure out how to use Nevsky, got to have his active skill expertise. He does so much of a stat stick when it comes to his 2nd skill. Got to have that. And when he, in his 3rd skill, he does 20% defense. If the target is surrounded, this commander deals 10% more damage and takes 5% less damage. Okay, that is really, really good. But the 4th skill is where it's at. That's what you got to have. So you can run Nevsky 5515. You get a little bit of a bonus on the defense at level 1. You get a little bit of bonus on the damage at level 2, and then you get hardly any damage reduction at level 1 as well. So if you have him 5515, as long as you've got this 4 skill expertise, or if you got this 4 skill maxed out to five levels, then he is good. So I'm not going to say he's prime, but let's go ahead and put a value on him. We're going to put him at a B level when it comes to that, okay? Now we're going to come into Scipio. Oh, baby. Scipio Prime. Skippy is getting a little bit old. Let's come over here to the infantry now. Okay, so when you have Scipio and we look at him, same type of direct damage, 3 target AoE. His debuff is still amazing to this day. 30% health 30% health debuff on 3 targets for 3 seconds. That's really, really good. Okay, he's got great stat stick, tons of attack on his 2nd skill, and you got to get the march speed. Have to. And then when you're outside of Alliance territory, the units you have gain an extra 10%. So CPO is vital when it comes to infantry march speed. You come into his 3rd skill, if the commander's troops is attacking a troop on the map, you gain 20% health. That's great. That's more tankiness. We know how that works. Whenever their troop launches a base attack, you have a 10% chance to do the additional damage factor for 3 seconds. This is great. And now it has an 8-second cooldown, but this is really, really good. That's why, like the Liu Che Scipio Emilianus works out okay. That's why Scipio Emilianus has got his own little his proc damage that people don't realize. It's just the cooldown's 8 seconds. But you got to have that if you're going to be running him half-baked, okay? His expertise is something I would say you can peel off of a little bit, but whenever you take skill damage, you have a 50% chance to reduce that damage by 30%. Now, if he's at level 1, that's just 10% reduction, okay? So you still get a little bit of benefit, but the 30% is much better, but you also grant a damage-absorbing shield. Now, here's the thing about the shield. The damage factor of 500 here is not that great. So having 250 at level 1 is half of that, all right? Well, the key here is that you have so many different armament procs, commander skills procs, all the different things that comes to a shield. You just need to get a shield. It doesn't matter what the damage factor is. You just need to get a shield, and the duration of the shield, no matter how low the damage factor, will last as long as they tell you. So if he gets a shield, even though the shield's gone in the 1st second, technically the effect of the shield, quote unquote, lasts for 3 seconds, which means that so many of these commanders that have different things, like Guan over here, all right, when you receive a shield, any kind of shield, This commander troop deals 15% more skill damage for 3 seconds. So you just need the benefit of the shield. You don't even care what it is. So you can literally run Scipio 5551 and it will work. It'll do okay. Okay, especially you growing accounts that are trying to field marches. All right, his expertise is kind of okay. You know, this commander troop deal 10% more skill damage. That's fine. And you get 30% rage if the current target is silenced. Well, if you don't have him with Guan, if you have him with Ragnar, that doesn't even really mean anything because Ragnar's not going to silence anybody. You got to try to get a silence from somebody else in your murder ball. So you can run Scipio 5551 and be fine with that. And so it's good value. I'll say when it comes to Scipio Prime, you're going to get A tier value when it comes to him not being expertise. Okay, so with that, we're going to go into Ragnar. We're going to see what this guy does, okay? And we're going to talk about this. It's all part of the video. We want to talk about the skills. Now, he does massive damage. He does great damage, and that damage is enhanced. When it's not expertise, you're still getting the 3 enemy troop types a damage factor of 2,000, okay? And then you do the current target of the commander's troop takes an additional damage for 2 seconds of 300. So that's just the current target. It's not the AoE. Now the expertise gives you the AoE benefit of that 300 damage factor over 2 seconds. But if it's not expertise, he's still doing a lot of damage, okay? So you can run him 5. You come over here, this commander's infantry units gain 40% defense. Holy cow, 10% march speed. And then if you contain only infantry units, you take 10% less normal damage, which is great. That mitigates a lot of things when it comes to smite and combo. Less normal damage is really, really good. So you got to have the first 2 skills, have to. You come into his 3rd skill, and this is the drain skill, okay? If this commander is in the field, whenever it launches a basic attack, it has a 30% chance to drain the enemy's attack by 20% and march speed by 30% for 2 seconds. Okay. Now, if this thing is not expertise, you only get a 10-second chance to do that drain effect. The drain effect is very cool. It's effective, but it is not like super busted overpowering. Okay, so you can almost skip this. I think it's one of the coolest skills in the game. I think it's massive benefit, but you can get good value out of this when it comes to only having this at level 1. Okay, you come to his 4th skill. If you're in the field, you take 25% less skill damage. All right, every time their troop reaches a rage of 70%, you get a 15% skill damage dealt for 4 seconds, okay? If this is just level 1, you're taking a 10% skill damage reduction, which is still okay. And then you're getting a 5% increase for 4 seconds. A 15% increase bonus to skill damage is nice, but it's not like completely amazing. You only get that really for the primary commanders. If he's primary, you're only going to get it for his active skill. You're not going to get it for the secondary commander. Okay, so you can literally run Ragnar 5511. You can run him 5551 if you really want to work on the drain, or you can skip the 3rd skill and run him 5515. He does have some decent value as a half-baked commander. So let's talk about him. And let's put him, I'm going to put him in the B category. He has value. Okay. Now we're going to talk about Liu Che. All right. Liu Che is pretty unique when it comes to this. Liu Che is, people ask me all the time, can he be used? He's so overpowered that when you have Liu Che 5511, he's still usable. Okay. But he is one of these commanders that you eventually have to expertise. Okay. You can run him as you know, everybody knows he's got massive 5 target smite damage. All right, and he does a march speed reduction, which is great. You come in here to the stat sticks, infantry defense bonus of 20%, skill damage reduction 20%. That's great, and then you get the march speed. Got to have the 2nd skill. You get into his 3rd skill, and when you're attacking another troop on the map, you're going to gain 20% attack. And whenever their troop launches a base attack, you have a 25% chance to deal smite damage 300 to the target with a cooldown of 5 seconds. That's really, really good, but it's not like over the top crazy. Okay, so in weird cases you can skip that 3rd skill. You come over here when you do 10% more normal damage, which is great. You only get 2% at level 1. And then whenever you deal smite damage, all targets deal 10% less damage for 3 seconds. Okay, this is really, really potent. Being able to lay down a 3-second debuff on 5 targets that they can only do 10% less damage for the next 3 seconds. Okay, that is really, really good. So if you were gonna half bake this dude, I would run him 5-5-1-5 and get the effectiveness. Okay, it works out really well. But my advice, his expertise is too strong. Way too strong. This is what makes him go. This is what makes him really, really good. This is what makes him proc so many things, because there's no cooldown on this, and it's just 25% every second. You got a 25% chance to do 2 basic attacks. Helps your rage, helps your instant procs, helps the instant procs of other skills of other commanders. That's why he's great with Alex. That's why he's great with some of these other commanders like Phillip. He is so good when it comes to that. His expertise is so potent that you just have to go max him. There's no sense in stopping when it comes to Liu Che. Okay, so let's go over here and we'll put Liu Che in this category. He could be maybe A or B, but I'm gonna put him in the must expertise category. Have to expertise this guy. Okay, that's just, he's too good, too powerful, have to expertise him. Now we're going to talk about Guan. Okay, not a lot of people have Guan, not a lot of people who are new in the game. I take that back. Everybody has Guan if you have an older account. Everybody does. You want to know how many kills I've gotten with Guan? Like, just an insane amount of kills. Okay, Guan has been a staple in my marches for years, and just recently I took him out. You know, when BQ came out, when Ragnar came out with Scipio, I started benching Guan, okay? But if you're gonna have him, or you got dailies on him, or if you can get him going, you can run Guan really, really effectively with his silence and his AoE damage. And then you come over here, you get great normal damage bonus and attack reduction that he does in his second skill. And his third skill, people forget this all the time. When you're looking at this overall, okay? On his third skill, this commander's infantry units gain 30% attack. Whenever the troops exit combat, you do the healing, okay? That's okay. At level 1, you get 10% attack. The healing factor is just not a big deal. It's just not a big deal. Now, you have to have the march speed. And that's why people put the third skill up very, very high. You go into his fourth skill. If the Saint of the War hits exactly one target, it has a 50% chance to deal direct damage of 1,000 to the target. This is really, really potent when it comes to Guan, okay? And from that standpoint, if you hit 2 or more targets, and you're gonna do 1,400 damage. Guan still does damage. He still does his damage, y'all. And so from that standpoint, it really, really works well. And so his 3 skill or 4 skills are good, okay? If you had to skip one, I would skip his third skill. Now, the hard part is you're gonna have to get march speed from somewhere. Okay, because he has no march speed outside of his third skill. But if you're gonna run him 5-5-1-5, that would be a benefit. Now, his expertise is pretty simple, and it's nothing crazy, okay? Because you only get 15% more skill damage if you get a shield. And then after leaving a building, a resource point, just getting out of trouble, you gain 100% march speed for 3 seconds, okay? That's not crazy good, especially this day and age. So you don't have to have an expertise. So if you want to run him half bake, 5-5-1-5, and you can run your Guan, okay? So let's put him up here. I would put him in the B category if you want to run him 5-5-1-5, and that's how you can do it. Okay, let's talk CJ real quick. We'll be a little bit quicker on CJ, okay? I love his expertise. For those of you playing in K2, those of you really kind of ramping him up, he's very, very important because you can put some heads into him, you can spin the wheel for him, and you can grab him a little bit of skills that will be pretty good. He's got a good marching bonus and good attack bonus, okay? His third skill is like my favorite skill in the game. I love it. You don't even have to be hitting anybody. You can be walking by, and if you get hit with smite, skill damage, or combo damage, he'll fan out an AoE instant proc, and you'll see these red numbers going towards the enemy, even if you're running away. Now, the cooldown on it is not great of 10 seconds, but you will see this thing fire off. It's like a placebo effect for your brain. You'll see it fire off so many times that you'll be like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun to use this guy. So I think it's one of the coolest skills you can have. It reduces that damage by 50%, and then you do that fan AoE. So I love this skill. You go into his fourth skill, you deal 15% more normal damage. And whenever you launch a basic attack, you have a 100% chance to cleanse, 1 debuff from itself. I don't think that is super, super important. It's okay, but I don't think it's super important because at 1 skill, you can make this a 50% chance to cleanse. Okay, so basically a 50% chance to cleanse means it'll launch on the second turn if it doesn't launch on the first turn. on average. And so that's what that thing does. So you still have the cleanse in effect, just at a 50% chance, just at the tier 1 level. And then you only have the normal damage bonus of 5% instead of 15. Okay, that's an easy trade-off. Easily the weakest skill that he's got. Now his expertise, whenever you take skill, smite, or combo damage, you have a 50% chance to reduce the damage by 50%. Okay, that is with his third skill. Okay, that's with his third skill with the expertise. Now, if you have the expertise, you get the 3 enemy target fan shape thing going. So going back to his third skill, even if you just reduce the damage by 50%, that's good. For the expertise, they add this kickback damage, which is, like I said, a lot of fun and it's great. However, you don't get it when you don't have the expertise. And that's okay, because the big part of this on the third skill is his damage reduction. Massive damage reduction. So if you don't have the expertise, you just get the damage reduction and you still have the same amount of chances and you have the same cooldown. Okay, so just for a little bit of extra damage, you get the expertise. So for me, 5-5-5-1 CJ is really, really good, especially in the early game. And that's where I'm going to rank this guy when it comes to the early game. We're going to put CJ at the A tier. We think he's really, really good, okay? So now we're going to go into BQ, the hardest hitting, baddest infantry commander we have. And he is busted good, even at half-baked levels, okay? We all know about his expertise, or his active skill, I should say. 2,400 damage factor to 5 enemy targets. Each target has a 30% chance to take 15% extra damage. That is crazy. Extra damage for his smite, which is awesome. You go into his second skill, tons of stat stick, 70% stat stick. Wild. Tons of attack, a little bit of health, good march speed, okay? You get in third skill, and this is where the malice stuff comes into play, okay? One of the reasons why people like BQ is because he does these red numbers like every turn. And he does these red numbers of every turn because you run these malice stacks up. And so if you're in a situation where you're hitting troops on a map, you gain 10 stacks of malice effect whenever you use an active skill. If its number of malice stacks is higher than the target's percentage of units remaining, it spends 10 malice stacks to deal direct damage. That damage at tier 1 is 100, okay? It's really not much. At tier 5 or level 5 is 300, okay? It also gains a 10% bonus to sev wounds and 20% bonus to rage reduction for 1 second. Okay, that's just like a 1 second deal of being able to take the damage that you do and inflict more sev wounds instead of just slightly wounded troops. I don't think that the back end value of this third skill, because it's only a 1 second rage recovery speed, and it's only got a cooldown of 1 second. Okay, but at the same time, it could have a cooldown of 1 second, but you're not going to trigger it again unless you're firing off active skills. And that's kind of how that works. You need to fire off active skills to get the malice stacks to go. Okay, and so from that standpoint, it really kind of debuffs itself, if you will, or just kind of makes it harder for itself to go trigger. But the sev wound stuff, I'm not a huge fan on. That doesn't do much for you in the field. Just gives you some more sevs that you inflict on them. The rage gain speed bonus, not massive, 20% less rage on your recovery speed for the enemy, but at level 1 you get that at 10%. So yeah, about a B+ skill in that third skill. But then you come to his fourth skill, this commander's troop steals 10% more normal damage. That's good. At level 1 it's 5%. The 10 malice stacks you automatically have upon entering battle. Okay, you have 10 malice stacks every time it loses 10% of its own troops, and then there's a 5% bonus to smite, deals up to 30% for every 10% below max units it is. Okay, so it's kind of like that old Honda effect. As you're losing troops, you're gaining your smite damage bonus, which is good and it's cool, but it's not like crazy. Okay, it's not like crazy good, gotta have this skill. So at a 5-5-1-1, BQ is better than William Wallace, he's better than Ragnar, he's better than Scipio, he's better than Alex. You know, if you're running Liu Che Alex and you get BQ 5-5-1-1, you run BQ Liu Che, 100%. He is great as a half-baked commander, great. Now his expertise is really weird and it doesn't do much at all. This never ever happens, okay? It just never ever happens when it comes to this getting 400,000 enemy units severely wounded. That's very hard to happen. Now, this does happen, and it's really good for Canyon. It's really good for sustained fights of running. But when you're in a murder ball and you're running back and forth and you get below 50% health, okay, odds are you're going back and forth. And so that 6-second timer is going to run out really, really fast. All right. But if you're slugging it out, if you're vanguarding the murder ball, or if you're in Canyon or something where you're going to stay in combat, then this becomes very effective. And then you have this 15% one. I understand that 100% more damage and a 50% less damage taken. When you have 15%, you're not doing much damage at 15%. You're just not doing much damage when you have 15% HP. 15% of your troops, you're not doing much damage anyway, so it's not that great. So you can run this guy 5-5-1-1, or you can run him 5-5-5 or 5-5-1-1. You can do it a bunch of different ways, but I like 5-5-1-1, half-baked 5-5-5-1 if you're gonna bake him a little bit more, and you can get seriously good value. So he'll be the first one that we put up here at the top, S tier. Great for running that value, great for doing that. So that is BQ on the S tier when it comes to a half-baked commander. Okay, let's get into the archers over here. This is where it gets to be a little bit of fun. First, I'm gonna go through Ash. Okay, Ash is the kind of guy who does a ton of damage. People don't realize how much damage he does and why he's still used in the field. 5 target AoE, 1500 damage factor, plus he rolls another 1000 damage factor to the target. It's great. The stat stick is really, really good. 55% stats, 20% attack, 20% defense, 15% health. 5-5 is great. Okay, you come into his third skill. You're going to do 20% more skill damage. Now, the hard part with this is that if you don't have this thing, if you got it at level 1, you're only doing 5% more skill damage. So you're getting a good multiplier when you go to level 5. Okay, when you ever use an active skill on a city or stronghold, the target deals 20% less normal damage. Okay, you don't have to worry about this at all, because the only way you're going to run half-baked Ash is in the field. That's the only way you're going to do it. So you don't even have to have the third skill maxed, because you're the attacking a city or a stronghold doesn't even affect you. You're only running it in the field. All right. And then if you come over here to his fourth skill, you take 15% less normal damage. That's fine. That's really good in a rally, but in the field, that's kind of okay. And then if you're leading a rally attack, okay. So listen, this is how Ash works, and this is why he's really, really good. You're not getting a lot of these skills in the field anyways. And so you can literally run this guy 5-5-1-1 in the field and it'll work. Now, the one thing you miss is this. His expertise is really, really good. Okay. And so from that standpoint, you miss out on this, because when he does those active skills in the field, you get these massive bonuses, and you get them for 4 seconds. And you can run these things. They stack with one another. They don't stack on top of each other. Like, you can't run it your archer attack up to 60% with 2 stacks, but they stack with one another. Like, you can run archer attack at 30%, and then for 2 seconds at the end, you get the 30% health, and you got both. So you can run this constantly with the active skills. And if you don't have this expertise, you don't get any of this benefit. Okay. And so it's kind of a roulette. It's kind of a gamble when it comes to which one of these things fire off, but you can use him 5-5-1-1 without the expertise. Okay. I kind of highly advise against it, but you could use it. There is some kind of value. So if you come in here, and let me come back to my full screen here. If you come in here and you look at the tier list, you can easily place him in the category of must expertise, easily. However, you're missing out on his skills anyway. So you could put him in the B category if you run him 5-5-1-1. Okay, we'll go to Hermann next. Hermann's really interesting. Obviously, he does the stacks of poison on his AoE active skill, really good. Stat sticks on his second skills, really good. 55% stat sticks, got to have that march speed. And then you come to his third skill, okay, where you're attacking another troop on the map. The AoE skills you do deal 20% more skill damage. Whenever their troop uses an active skill while another on the map, they're currently target loss of 20% defense for 2 seconds. So there's a 20% defense reduction, okay? And then this commander's armor units take 5% more damage from cavalry okay, units, and deal 5% more damage to infantry units. Okay, and so you're gonna get that 5% more damage from cavalry. You're gonna get, because you're gonna get crushed by cavalry, but at level 1 you're only doing 1% more damage to infantry. Overall though, this is a skippable skill. Okay, you don't necessarily have to have this. Now the 20% skill damage is great. At level 1 it's 5%, and at level 1 you get a 5% reduction on the debuff, which is fine, but not overpowering. Okay, his 4 skill is really where it's crazy. This commander troop takes less damage from poison troops. Okay, so when you're stacking up the poison, you're just taking less damage. Whenever their troop launches a basic attack, you have 10% chance to deal direct damage to 3 enemy troops. The damage factor is not that high, and troops hit by this damage are inflicted with 2 stacks of poisons. Okay, so you just want the 2 stacks of poisons that you're putting down. Okay, the fact that the damage factor is only 200, that doesn't even really matter. You just want to put the damage or the poison stacks on them, so you get that benefit even if this is level 1. Okay, so you can actually use Hermann 5511 and be okay. And then whenever you have 25 stacks of poison on an enemy, it triggers the Forest of the Fallen Eagles skill at level 5. Okay, so it's going to trigger this again. Very seldom do you get to 25 stacks. It just doesn't happen very often. So Hermann is a good investment at 5511. You do get value out of him. All right, so we're going to put him up here as we kind of figure this thing out. We're going to put him up here at A tier. I like him at A tier, 5511, compared to how he is. He's very effective in being able to do that. Okay, Zhuge will be the next one we talk about, and Zhuge really can't be used outside of expertise, I don't think. Of course, we know his AoE and his damage reduction on the second part of his AoE, and then you come in here to his stat stick with extra damage, archer health, gotta have that. You come over here to his skill damage bonus, archer attack bonus. I mean, this is stuff you gotta have. Okay, the skill damage bonus of 20% is a must, I think, for him, just because he's doing so much skill damage. And the 10% to gain 50% attack is great, especially when you use him with Chen, because that 50% attack for 3 seconds really helps Chen. His 4th skill, when the secondary commander of the commander's troop uses an active skill, if you don't already have the marquee effect, it gains marquee effect for 10 seconds. So you just keep piling up that marquee effect from the second commander doing an active skill. And if your troop has a marquee effect that contains only archers, it dispels the marquee effect and deals direct damage to 3 targets, which is great. Okay, and so this is a real good situation with his damage bonus. But here's the reason. This is expertise, guys. Upon entering combat, this commander automatically gains the marquee effect, okay, which immediately increases your damage by 10% for 15 seconds. And then, of course, we know that gets replenished. Whenever they deal skill damage with the burning of Zenyi or marquee, you're going to gain 30% range. So as you're doing all these effects, this one, let's see, and this one, as you're doing all these effects, you're gaining rage. That's what makes him work. That's why his rage gain is so good. That's why he's incredible at expertise. So I will put Zhuge at a commander like you have to expertise. No questions asked. That's one you have to expertise. I really can't figure out a way to make him really valuable at like 5511. So that's one I would say you have to expertise. Okay, we're going to get on to Chen now. I love him. Simple and easy. You guys, I've got a guide for Chen. I can put that card in the top, but we all know his kit. It's really weird. It's really interesting. You don't have to max the first skill. That's the easy part with him. You can run him 1551 or 1515. You can do it either way. Okay, this is probably what I would say is the most important skill, is the second skill. The third skill, I love it, especially with an expertise. But without an expertise, this is how this thing plays out. Okay, if you haven't been in the building for 10 seconds, you get the Eternal Empire effect for 8 seconds. Whenever it enters combat, it can trigger once every 60 seconds. Okay, when you deal direct damage with Iron Pierces Bronze or the Eternal Emperor, it deals extra damage to the targets and does the drain effects. Okay, so that's really good. That's why I like it. All right, the 4th skill though is the most tankiest skill in the game. Basically, when you get hit with combo smite or direct damage, you basically consume rage when you get hit with that, and you do a damage reduction of 40%. Okay, so I would say 1551 if you can, or 1515. That's the best way to do that. You could run this guy half baked. He's so powerful, it doesn't matter. You run him 1515 he'll be your best trading commander. Like, that's how powerful he is. So that one's a slam dunk, easy one that we can do and show you that he's going to rank right up there with BQ when it comes to the S tier. Okay. Now we'll get into some cavalry here. Let me pull this back out. Let me see here. We've got our cavalry. Cavalry showing up. Let's look at HQ. I do not even have him expertise, y'all. I don't even have Huo expertise, like at all. And so from there, it is just really interesting to see how Huo works here, because I don't even have him expertise. And let's look at his skills. Obviously, his active skill is really, really good for single target, and you do massive damage. And the rage reduction is great. Okay. The second skills, I think, is a must-have. You get 40% attack, and you do 5% more damage to archers, plus you also get a little bit of march speed. Okay? And if you've been on the map for more than 30 seconds, all right, and you've fought at least one, or you have previously done the triggered of the autumn wind effect, for the first 15 seconds of entering combat, you're going to deal 30% more skill damage. Great. And you're required 150 less rage to use your active skill. After 5 seconds of combat, then you're going to turn around and deal 10% more normal damage. This is a must-have, okay? Running that rage reduction down to 150 to where this is 850 makes him fire off so fast, okay? Then his fourth skill, when it's not expertise, you get this, okay? You can run this at level 1, all right, where your cavalry units only have 10% defense and you're only dealing 5% more skill damage, okay? And then the healing portion is just not that big of a deal. It doesn't even matter. That's why I don't even have it expertise, because the expertise side of this, you're just getting 5% more defense and 5% more skill damage, but you reset his rage. So you can run Huo 5-5-1 and not have a problem with it at all. Okay, so let's put Huo up here. Let's look at this and give him some value. I put him at the B category for that. Okay, and then we've got Beli. I'm just going to go ahead and put Beli here. He is a must expertise, and I can explain this to you pretty easily when it comes to Beli. All right, Beli's the biggest benefit Beli has. He's got good single target damage. Of course, we know that. He's got good stat sticks here. He's got great defense bonus here. Plus, he's got a little instant proc, and then he's got a skill damage reduction and a skill damage bonus. Okay, these are all good skills. They're nothing crazy, and you could probably try to figure out a way to run it 5-5-1-1. But this is what you have to have. You have to have that. If you're running Beli and you don't have this, you're doing it wrong. You have to have him expertise. That's why not a lot of people run him, because not a lot of people have the heads to expertise this guy. But if you do, then you've got like the best debuff in the game. Instant perpetual debuff. The second you hit him, that target takes 12% more damage if you got five troops surrounding it. That's what makes him so good. And that's what makes him viable in the end game. And so that's one of the things that we get into with Beli, to where we want to make sure we're doing this right. And Beli has to be expertise type of commander, and that's how it works. Okay, so that's why I have him in the must expertise. Now we're going to come to Phillip. All right, Phillip's an interesting cat. Here's the thing with Phillip. People try to use him in a half-baked situation, but he's not really built for that. Let me explain, okay? You come over here to Phillip in the field. Love his expertise. Love his expertise. It's great. You go to his second skill. Love the stat stick, especially if you're running him with archers or infantry. You're just getting a ton of benefit, especially archers, okay? Cavalry get 35% attack, which is really good. This third skill has to be done. This is his damage skill. You have to have this, okay? Because you run one target, one type of unit, you do 30% more damage perpetually. That's what makes him okay. It makes him good as far as being able to do damage and amplify the march that he's in. All right, you come to his fourth skill, and this is where the instant proc skill is. This is like the best instant proc in the game, in my opinion. 10% chance to deal direct damage to 3 nearby enemy troops for 800. That's a 2400 damage factor. Okay, then you got that 15% reduction that you got, but that's a 2400 damage factor, and then you reduce the rage by 100. And the cooldown's only 30 seconds. I think all these skills are so valuable to make him work, but then this is why it works. Okay, whenever this commander uses an active skill, they have a 40% chance to use their active skill a second time. When the other commander, the secondary commander, uses the active skill, you have a 20% chance. So you have a 60% chance to double proc. Okay, and it's a roulette between Phillip and whoever he's with. So That expertise is what makes him good. And that's why he has to be in the must expertise category. So there's your kind of half-baked scenario that you've got. I'm sure there's other commanders out here that I've missed that I haven't done, and I can kind of look at that. If you want to join my Discord, hit the link in the description and ask that question. If there's somebody else on here, hey Chatsky, is there somebody else I can run 5511? We can answer that question for you. We've got all the different channels to do that, but we wanted to share this with you and kind of go through exactly what the value was for some of these commanders, okay? I still think Huo is probably more valuable as a commander than CJ, or does more damage, but at K2, in K2 with what you can do with CJ, that's where I put the value of him up here, okay? And then these commanders, you gotta expertise these guys. That's what they're built for. That's what they're made for. But here's the good news. The two most powerful commanders in the game, you could run BQ 5511 or 5551, and then you can run Chin 1515 or 1551, however you want to do it. You can be really economical when it comes to that and put those guys in a half-baked situation. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please throw a thumbs up on here. If you got any questions, throw them down in the comments. There are other commanders we can look at, but I wanted to get those commanders out, and hopefully you guys had a great time with this. If you haven't joined the Discord, like I said, the Discord link is in the description. And if you are not subscribed, please consider doing so. It doesn't cost you anything. You can hit the button, hit the bell when I get content, put it out. And with that, I hope you guys have a great day, broskies. We will see you later.